When it comes to transferring a design onto a t-shirt, there are a number of different ways you could do that. The easiest method in most cases, in my opinion, is to simply draw the design directly onto the shirt using a regular pencil. You can absolutely freehand draw a design directly onto a t-shirt with a regular pencil. The disadvantage to doing that is if you make a mistake, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to erase that mistake. In this case, I chose to trace the design onto this shirt. I had already drawn out this particular image of Iron Man because originally I intended on painting this image onto a shirt, and I wanted it to be quite a bit larger than this reference image is, and quite a bit larger than I have the capability of actually printing a copy of this image out. In the end, I decided my original drawing was a little bit too large for the size of this particular shirt. So I made a photocopy of my original drawing and shrank it down to a more reasonable size for this particular shirt. And this photocopy of my drawing is what we will actually use to transfer the image onto the shirt. So let's go back to the t-shirt. As you can see, I'm simply sliding the photocopy of my drawing underneath the shirt, between the shirt board and the t-shirt itself. This works really well for a white or maybe even a light colored t-shirt. Obviously, if you're working on a black shirt or a dark colored shirt, you'll have to use another method to transfer your design. One quick little tip, I am using a small piece of tape on the bottom of the photocopy to hold it in place on the shirt board. Most of the time, the t-shirt itself will hold your drawing or your photocopy, whatever you're using, in place. But you do run the risk of that shifting either a very small amount or a large amount before you've finished actually tracing the design. So it's a good idea to use a piece of tape just to make sure that this stays put until you finished the transfer. At this point, I'm going to step off camera and walk back 6 to 10 feet just to make sure that I'm happy with the placement of the drawing on the shirt before I actually start tracing anything, as well as making sure that it is straight and level. I wasn't happy with where I had the placement at first, so I came back and made a quick adjustment. When it comes to what you use to trace the design onto the shirt, it is not necessary to freehand draw your design out. You can absolutely use a photocopy or even the actual reference image that you're using if it's the correct size. I've said it before and I'll say it one more time. Improving your drawing skills will absolutely improve your painting skills and vice versa. They go hand in hand. I would strongly encourage you to work on your drawing skills. I like to draw, so in this case, I had no problem with drawing this out. There is also an advantage to an actual line drawing versus a photograph. With the photograph, once you slide that underneath a shirt, you'll start to lose some of the detail, especially in shadowed areas. With a line drawing, you have a lot more contrast and you can see the lines better. It's still not crystal clear. I missed a couple lines when I was actually tracing this design out, but it's much easier with a simple line drawing versus an actual photographic reference image. So at this point, I'm happy with the actual placement of the photocopy, so I can begin tracing the design onto the t-shirt. Tracing the design is obviously not something that is very technical. I'm simply trying to recreate the lines on the photocopy under the surface of the shirt exactly as I see them. I do want to keep my pencil strokes relatively light. I don't want to have to cover dark pencil strokes with paint later down the road, so that's something to keep in mind. One more tip. As an artist, I generally prefer to have a very sharp tip at the end of my pencil. That's not the case when you're working on fabric, especially a t-shirt, because that very sharp tip can actually snag the material on the shirt and you can actually wind up putting a hole in your shirt. So I like to keep a rounded or a dull tip on my pencil when I'm drawing on a t-shirt. You can do that very simply using a sharpening pad is what I prefer, and just run the lead over the end of the pad a few times to give yourself a good round tip. The sharpening pad is not something that is absolutely necessary. I keep them around because I use them for my electric erasers as well, but you can get the same results with a scrap piece of paper or just on the back of my easel by simply using the pencil until you have a nice rounded dull tip. Once the entire design has been transferred, the photocopy can be removed and the shirt is ready for some color. And that's really pretty much it. Obviously, this is not the only method you can use to transfer a design onto a t-shirt, but it's a good option to have in your toolbox. It's one that I use frequently when it comes to t-shirts. One final tip. If you were paying attention, you probably saw me look over and reference my actual reference image several times while I was transferring the design. I like to have my reference image posted somewhere close, not only when I'm painting, but also when I'm just transferring the design. Because t-shirts are not 100% transparent. Even a white or light colored shirt can be difficult to see some of the detail on the photocopy underneath the shirt when you're transferring the design. I had that issue a couple of times while I was transferring this design, so it's nice to be able to look over and see the actual reference image to verify whether what I'm looking at is correct or not before I actually draw the lines onto the shirt. And at this point, the shirt is ready for some paint. So I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, and share. I'm Trevor with Wicked Art Studio. I'll see you all next time.